So I guess this is where I'm supposed to say live from Bristol, Tennessee. That's how Jeremy does it.
Yes.
Jeremy left us hanging briefly. He's going to come on later, everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just me and Ben for now. I mean, how rude to go and celebrate it's his sister's birthday, right? Isn't that what it is? And he's on vacation. Am I right in that?
Well, what this says, Jared, is we know where we are in his priorities. Okay. So we'll have to remember. We'll remember that.
I'm putting this in the brain bank. I'll be like, all right,
Yes.
Jeremy, I see how it is. I see where I stand, and yeah, I'm gonna hold on to this one. I'm gonna hold on to it. But no, thank you guys for joining us. We've already got some folks coming on Rumble. I'm gonna assume. What do you think? What do you bet? Is Jeremy one of them? Jeremy, if you're actually on,
Dude,
if you're on Rumble or Facebook or YouTube while you're at dinner with your family, leave a comment, and then I will screenshot it and send it to them and say, hey, you know, you thought you were having a conversation with Jeremy at dinner. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We've got, and I'll give everybody a quick rundown on what we're going to discuss. But the new mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, overtook Andrew Cuomo, and that's with 90% of the votes. Cuomo's already given his concession speech. So there you go. A change. Well, we went from a pretty staunch Democrat, old school Democrat, to a straight up socialist. As the mayor of New York. New York's lost. I mean, that's what I think.
They are. They are. They just keep getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad juju, man. It's not good. You've got the prayer being blasted out, the Muslim prayer being blasted out all over Times Square, and hundreds of thousands of people. In fact, I heard a stat the other day, and I don't know, you could correct me on this one if you heard it too.
Yeah.
But there was it's 40% of New York is foreign born. And that's not of refugees, but straight up born in other countries. Have you heard that? Did you hear that stat?
I didn't hear that.
I feel like it might have been Charlie Kirk. And so I shouldn't bring it up if I don't know for sure, but I did. And anyway, yeah, it's New York is in a bad sort of way. And I don't think electing a socialist is going to help them, but we'll talk about that. And then we'll get into obviously the Iran saga. Everybody saw the thumbnail. This Iran saga it keeps going. And what's really interesting is that the country is divided, but our side of politics, the more conservative side of the political spectrum, is wildly divided as well. So there's the straight up Trump folks and that are supporting this, and that's generally the pro-Israel side of the argument. And then there's the Candace Owens side of the argument, which is staunchly opposed to it. And she's saying, of course, we're going to get into another war and so on and so forth. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk a bit about feminism. And I'm doing this because Jeremy left me running the show for now until he comes on. But I think it's a good segue to go from the Iran conflict and the potential for a 20-year war, another 20-year war, into feminism and beta males, because you need people to fight these wars. And who's going to do it? And have we overly feminized our young men? And let's see. We're going to end on some really good stuff. So the man with the world's highest recorded IQ has declared that Jesus Christ is God. Did you see that one?
I did, yes.
Oh, it was really, really cool. And then we've got the Philippines. They were out having a worship session, and Jesus appeared in the clouds to them. It was really cool. Like you could see the actual form of Jesus. That was really wild. So, okay, let's go ahead and get into the first piece of this, which is talking about the dirty world of politics. And Andrew Cuomo has conceded to New York City's Democrat mayoral primary to Zoran Mamdani. All right, so I've got a couple videos I'm going to play of this guy, but let me read a little bit of this article to get us started. With 90% of the votes counted in the first round of the Democratic mayoral primary count on Tuesday, former Governor Andrew Cuomo has conceded the race to Socialist State Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani, and it's likely that Cuomo will run in the general mayoral election in November. Wait, he's...
Yeah, so they said when I was listening to the news today that they said something about Cuomo running as an independent.
Interesting. Okay.
Along with Eric Adams.
Really?
Yeah.
With Eric Adams. Okay. I didn't get that one. That's pretty
Or he was now I know that was Cuomo, but Eric Adams came on, they did a soundbite of him, and he said in his words he can't wait to get back out on the trail. Who knows? This whole thing is so odd. Cuomo being in it is odd, I think. I mean, it's just kind of, it's like old baggage. It's just, you don't really have great choices.
Right. Yeah. Well, Cuomo and Eric Adams, I feel like have both, they somewhat made a turn. It's not that they weren't Democrats, because they still were. But as their party has moved further and further to the left, further away from traditional American values and all those things, the holdovers were people like Cuomo. Now, Cuomo, the things that he did in New York are absolutely shameful, are horrific, in fact. But, he was kind of a holdover when it comes to basic principles of how to run a city. And so is Eric Adams.
Yeah.
He's... Yes. Okay. You're correct, Tristan. He won the primary. He's not the new mayor. He won the Democrat primary. That's correct. So let me read a little more of this article, and it'll provide a bit more insight into it. And this is from the Post Millennial, by the way, for everybody. The New York Times reported that Cuomo addressed the crowd at his election night, saying, "Tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night." Clary Fahey, okay, I'm going to mess that up, for the Times said that Cuomo says Mamdani ran a great campaign and connected with New Yorkers, adding that he inspired them and moved them and got them to come out and vote. He really ran a highly impactful campaign. So this is him taking over. Mamdani has overtaken Cuomo in the primary. That's correct. So there's still going to be elections. So if they're getting back out on the trail, that's that's what they're alluding to. I don't know. I don't think, look, they need change. But let me play this. This is the guy who, this is some of his policy prescriptions. Let me pull this up here for everybody to see. Let's see. This is a great way in a city full of bodegas and other things to put some small businesses out of work, to shutter some small businesses. Let's play this one. Oh, good gracious. We're trying this a little different tonight, guys. And, let's see here. All right, let's go to screen share. Thank you for bearing with me. Here we go. Let's listen to him.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zahran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent.
Isn't that nice? When they are state-owned, you don't have to pay property taxes. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to worry about profits. You just take the people's money and then dole it out to other folks. That's not a benefit that the average grocery store gets. Okay, I'm gonna keep playing this.
We'll pass on those savings to you. Grocery price.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the last part of it. I mean, that's socialism 101. State-run. Have you ever seen any of the old footage from like the Soviet Union, the grocery stores?
No, the grocery stores. No.
Bro, these things, you're talking about barren shelves, and that happens today in countries that are, at least bordering on socialist. Empty grocery stores, empty freezers. And he's saying, I want to bring this to the biggest, because they're the biggest city, right? New York's still the biggest city in the country.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
So the smaller grocery stores would not be for profit.
Well, he's saying that that basically the city is gonna start their own chain of grocery stores, not focused on profit.
Okay. So
it's welfare, right?
New York City grocery store, yeah.
Correct. Paid for by the taxpayers and doled out to certain people, probably. You'll probably have to have a card. I'm speculating, but you would probably have to have a card, or only the people under a certain income are allowed in, even though they're taking the money from everybody else to keep it afloat.
Gotcha. Yeah. So the people, yeah. So the wealthiest are paying for the groceries of the least wealthy.
It's redistribution, right? And it's not
Yes.
even the
Yes.
wealthy. It's going to be the middle class folks. You know,
Or
if
the
you're
middle.
making,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to, because they bear most of the burden in most of these instances. And this takes me to the always makes me think of the moral and immoral side of policy, because we have certain morals, and you know, I'm sure that, you know, Jeremy and other folks would echo that, and maybe you'd think the same thing. The charity is supposed to come from the church. And people,
Yeah.
have you ever heard that? You know, people say Jesus was the original lefty. Have you heard folks say that?
I have. I have. Yes.
Yeah. And they say, well, it's, you know, it's taking care of the poor, taking care of the widows and the orphans and all of those things. But that was a plea and a call to the church to do those things. And we have abdicated the church. The church is still trying, but the church has been, they've had really the government's boot heel on their neck, so to speak. And they say, well, we're going to take over this responsibility, because the church is based on charity. It's based on our giving hearts, joyful giving. And instead of joyful giving, they take from everybody else. It's theft. They steal from other people and give to others. And that in and of itself is immoral. The way I look at it is, it's immoral to steal from someone, even if you vote to steal from someone, which is what we do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's what New York did. They voted to steal from people by electing a socialist.
Isn't it what? Okay. Isn't it? It's wild to me, I guess, that it's kind of the same thing with like Gavin Newsom in California. People in New York, are they scared of change, or do they just not want to go through the hassle of change? Because people there, as well as they reelect people like Gavin Newsom, and they reelect people like this dude. And it's like, how are y'all not seeing that changing would help you all so much? Because nothing has gotten better for you all.
Right.
And that's the whole thing of elections almost, is am I better off now than I was? And it's like, no. So what's the fear there, I guess? You know, I mean,
you know, I have a theory on this. This is simply this is a theory that just came to my mind. It's rooted in things that I've thought before. But when you don't have everybody has a God, right? Everybody has, whether it's God, whether it's, you know, whether you've got Christ or not, or whether you've got Muhammad, or you've got the Buddha, or you've got greed, or you've got envy, or you've got, you know, money. Like, everybody finds some kind of God in their life. And they have the political left has made the moral authority of their lives the federal government. And so voting for anything other than their political party, which is their supreme leader, their deity really in their lives, is kind of like, I mean, I can't even think of a good analogy, but you can't deviate from that. Like, we'll never not accept, like, now that we know who Christ is, we'll never not accept Christ. Now that they think that their entire world revolves around the Democrat Party because there is nothing above that, they will never deviate from that. Some will, right? Some, we've seen the people getting red pilled, but it's really this, it's almost like political deism. Would that be, is that a thing? I don't know if that's a thing or not, but
that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it really seems like that's what it is. So they do it knowing that I don't even think it's knowing. I think it's just trusting that their government leaders, because they are of the party that is directing their entire worldview, they will never steer them wrong. And the only reason these policies haven't worked is because of Republicans, or because of conservatives, or because of Christians, or because of whatever.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I've seen, especially with this last election, saw many African Americans coming to the realization, like, what has the Democratic Party actually done for us? we're worse off now than we don't keep getting better. And we had a lot of them said, and we had a African American president.
Yeah.
It's like, and they treated him as their quote savior when that happened. My gosh, when Obama was elected, I mean, it was like Black Jesus to some of these people. It really was. It was scary how just entrenched they were in this, but it's sad. Like, Katie and I went up north on a trip, and we spent a few hours in New York City. We took a ferry around, is it the Hudson River? Yeah. We took a ferry around there. That was really cool. I just wish I was more excited about it, because I kept thinking that I had to have my head on a swivel a little bit. It wasn't, and maybe I put some of that on myself, I don't know, but I was never like comfortable, and I wanted to just get out. Like, we went to Times Square to see that. That's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
But I just didn't feel comfortable, and I hate that, because like, as a kid, you're like, I mean, New York City is like, oh, that's where you want to visit. That's where you want to go. It's like it's fantastic, but I don't know, man. I hate that. I hate what it's become. That sucks.
Well, and under Giuliani, it went from back in the 70s. I mean, people, if you need a cinematic reference, you could look at was it Denzel? What was the movie he was in? He was the gangster guy. Unbelievable role. Well, you know what it was back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the crack epidemic that was going on there, and security just absolutely plummeted, and they started making a recovery. And by the way, people like Giuliani, first off, instituting security measures that started bringing security of New York back around. As you have more security, then you had people like Donald Trump stepping in and rebuilding the city. He was the most prolific real estate guy in the entire city, and he was accredited back then and up until the point he came down the escalator as the guy who had revived New York City. So, as you get away from the Giuliani type politics and get back towards the far left politics, the security degrades. And, we knew this back in the Army. It was part of one of our, I guess, it was something you learn very quickly, that you can't develop a country, a city, a state, whatever it happens to be, without security. When security degrades, everything else falls apart. Well, I guess this would be a decent time, because we're about 20 minutes in here, to go ahead and talk about the headline, which is Iran. Unless you had something else. Do you have anything else you wanted to say?
Nope, that's it, man.
About New York? New York stinks. No. But honestly, if people vote for this stuff, I have to say, election. We always say it. Elections have consequences.
They do have consequences.
This is just going to be one of them. All right, let's start off first. Everybody knows what happened in Iran. Unless you've been under a rock, for those that have been under a rock, we struck one of Iran's nuclear facilities where they were enriching uranium, and we blew up centrifuges, all this stuff, and apparently annihilated their ability to make nuclear weapons, which is what we were worried about. And we talked about it. Did we talk about it? We didn't talk. The strike happened between our last episode and now, didn't it?
The strike
it was last Friday.
Between.
Yeah. And we were texting. Our text thread was going bananas about it.
Oh, yeah.
We were like,
it was.
Good grief.
Katie was like, she stopped me. Sorry, but she stopped me, and she was like, I forgot what I was doing, but she's like, did we just bomb Iran? I said, what? And so then I went straight to X, and I was like, yes, evidently we did.
Well, I have notifications turned on X, so on my phone, and I looked down, and X it was like 45 notifications. I was like, what in the world? And okay, apparently we bombed Iran. There you go. So this is the FBI. All right, FBI investigates illegal leak of Iran strike damage assessment to CNN. And as we were talking before the show, I've never heard of a strike damage assessment. We called it a battle damage assessment, but it's simply saying the result of our military action was X. So many people killed, so many facilities destroyed, vehicles destroyed, and you do a whole, and I'm going to assume that we had some sort of aircraft in the sky because we did have very high resolution imagery of that, but it probably wasn't aircraft, it was probably satellites, and taking images of it, and there's some monster craters.
See, and I'm glad you would be able to see it way more than I could, because the initial things that came out when people said, I don't really see much. Honestly, that was me, because there's, I don't know really what to. I'm literally looking for a massive hole in the ground.
Right.
But I don't know. So I don't know really what to look for. So I'm glad that you saw pretty substantial damage.
Yeah, and it's a perspective thing too. So the satellites, I couldn't, even if I knew more about the satellite technology, my mere 20 years in the military was not spent at that level. I've got some buddies that probably could tell you about all that, but for me, I don't know. But I could tell that these are the nature of those craters. Those bombs are 15,000 pound. They dropped 12 of them, 15,000 pound penetrator, bunker busters. That's massive. Yeah. And so we could talk about, we got in kind of a conversation before about whether or not we should have struck, and I think we should talk about that here in a minute. But this leak is the problem. So speaking with reporters on Wednesday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt revealed that the FBI is investigating the source of a leaked top-secret intelligence report that was discussed by anonymous sources in a CNN report regarding the U.S. strike on Iran. They took bits and pieces from a leaked, there's a quote here, they took bits and pieces from a leaked top-secret intelligence report. And by the way, I understand the FBI is investigating who was the source of that leak because it's an illegal leak to CNN, Leavitt said. And this is the same fake news CNN reporter who wrote the story alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which we know is one of the greatest political hoaxes this country and the American public have ever seen. I'm going to read a little bit more of this, and then we're going to discuss. But, quote, and that CNN story does not change the facts. There was a total and complete obliteration of Iran's nuclear facilities. And because of the president's strike, because of the precision of our United States military in this perfectly executed mission, Iran no longer has the capability to produce a nuclear weapon as imminently as, that's wording here, no longer have the capability to produce a nuclear weapon as imminently as they did prior to the strike. So she's saying, not as immediately, but we didn't necessarily and entirely destroy their capability to do it. And this is the last part I'll read of this, but, quote, the American people and the world should be grateful for that, and it's disgusting that CNN and the New York Times are disparaging not just the president, but our brave men and women who helped conduct this highly successful operation. All right, so backlash from all of this is, all right, jail time for these people.
Yeah.
Send them to jail. Leakers, all that. And they leaked it. How these nefarious reporters get just unfettered access to all this information can only tell you, in my opinion, that they're political operatives. The people that are in the military that leaked it are political operatives that are cozy with these, other Muldoons, these reporters, I'll call them reporters.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What was your take on it?
Well, when I first saw it, when I first saw the stuff on some posts about it on X, I was like, it was like when I guess Iran was coming out first, maybe, and saying that it was definitely not damaged beyond repair and it wasn't that bad. And I was like, man, did we just completely screw this over? That was my first thought.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I don't know, it can't be that, because everybody they are adamant that we destroyed a lot of it.
Yeah.
They're so adamant, and there's no way that Trump wouldn't come out and say all of that if there was if he was unsure about it.
Yeah. I think,
Um, so
I think there's probably some truth to that, but on the other hand, I've looked at this a couple of ways. I said, all right, do I think that Trump would come out and so definitively say that they destroyed Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons without actually having done it? Or do I think that he would come out and say we absolutely obliterated it, knowing that, well, 12 of these, bunker busters wasn't enough. We needed 5 more, yet we dedicated all of these resources to it, and now I have to go to the American people and say, well, we struck them, but we only set them back 2 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of sway back and forth. I try to give him credit where credit is due, but I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, it looks like there was a lot. Like there are a lot of reports now saying that they moved a lot of the uranium before we even struck.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why they struck early. So they gave them, what was it, 48 hours, and at 40 hours or something like that is when the strike actually took place. So that means that they said you've got 48 hours, but they put planes in the air. Probably, I mean, I guess 36-hour mission, all the prep work beforehand, because there's a massive amount of prep work to load those aircraft, to get them fueled, to pre-position all of the tankers, what are they called? The KC-130 somethings. Yeah. Anyway, to get all those assets, you're talking about thousands of people all aligned to fly this monstrous mission. So he knew, you've got 48 hours that like they were going to drop the bombs. Like there was,
Here's what I never understand with war. And I don't know. It seems like modern times that this is more prevalent. Why even give them a heads up? I mean, just why even remotely do that?
I mean, it was an ultimatum, I think, is my understanding of it. Like leading up to it, my understanding is it was really just an ultimatum. But you can also say, hey, you've got 48 hours to get your people out of there, but we are going to destroy that facility. And they could maybe get uranium out. They could get some centrifuges out, like portions of whatever it was that was in all of these facilities. But, that's just to say we're going to limit civilian casualties as much as possible, but the rest is on you. You've got X amount of time. You better get them out of there. And that's almost, it's similar to what Iran, not similar, and I won't say that, it's not the same, but Iran telegraphed when they responded, they actually telegraphed their response. For those of you that don't know, they shot rockets at Qatar, at our military bases in Qatar, but they said in advance, hey, we're going to shoot this because we have to, we basically have to save face in front of our people. And there you go. Like and I would assume that the only reason they did that they can say that and that Trump can respond saying they told us they were going to do this is because they've shut down the internet and they don't look like fools in front of their people. Because, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's like it just reminds me of shooting one of those little toy guns in the cartoons and the flag comes out. It's just like I don't know. It's so odd. I don't know. It's so odd to me. The behind the scenes discussions that happen between the two people that are bombing each other. It's like, hey, just let you know, we're going to do this in this same amount of time. Okay, well, now that you've done that, we're going to do this. So just let you know. Yeah. And it's like that is, I don't know. That seems odd. Well, to me, I guess.
I think that the bigger message with us doing this, I'm pretty confident that we knocked their nuclear capabilities or their ability to enrich uranium to weapons grade back a great deal, a significant amount. However, I think that it's not just to Iran, but to the rest of the world. And I'm not saying that I agree with it because I was very angry when I first heard about this because a guy that spent, global war on terrorism was a huge chunk of my life. And I'm so sick and tired of war. so I was pretty angry about it when it first happened. But I will give the positives. And one of the positives is projection around the world that these are the links that we are willing to go to for countries seeking nuclear weapons. Now, a lot of folks argue that, well, Israel's got nuclear weapons, and why are we allowing Israel to have one, but we aren't allowing Iran to have one, and so on and so forth. And to that, I generally say, because Israel's not trying to wipe Iran off the face of the earth, but the exact opposite is the case, as Iran is seeking to do that to Israel. But nonetheless, it is a powerful projection. It's a powerful message to the rest of the world. This is what our military is capable of doing. And it's wild what we can do. I mean, it's the second longest mission in history. Isn't that what they said?
Yep. The second longest. The first, shoot, dude. They said it, and I can't remember what the first one was now.
I feel like it was in Desert Storm.
Was it? Okay.
Was it? I don't even remember. I feel like I should know this.
I thought maybe 9/11 was a more. I don't know. I have no idea.
That was it.
But I can't imagine. I try to put myself in the shoes of the pilots. I would assume that I guess my knowledge is only coming off of watching Top Gun, but but I guess like they get chosen out of a group of people to, like, what, 3 or 4 of them get chosen to do this, pilots.
I don't know.
So, but anyway, I can't imagine doing that. I mean, the precision you have to have. I mean, there's a lot of weight on each one of them to perform.
Yes. And the stamina that you would have to have. 36 hours sitting in one of those planes. Hours. Yeah, it's crazy. Really crazy. Well, I'm going to play Pete Hegseth's response. This is at NATO. So let's listen to this. Let me make sure I'm unmuted here.
Not have a public component to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin?
Let him answer this.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment, you know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep.
I love that,
because Iran's nuclear program is
such
obliterated.
A good line.
And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that drop the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
But you're not disputing the report said what it said, even though it was initial.
The report said what it said, and it was fine. It was severe, they think, but they had no idea. They shouldn't have issued a report until they did, but we've gotten the information. I think Pete said it better than you can say it. And, you know, you should be proud, you, especially you, should be proud of those pilots, and you shouldn't be trying to demean them.
No, there's
Those
a difference
pilots flew
asking
at
about an
great
assessment
risk, a
and
big
the
chance that
skill
they'd
of
never
the
come
US
back home and see their
one
husbands
is
or their
questioning the
wives.
skill
Let
of
me
the
just tell you, you and NBC fake news, which is one of the worst, and CNN, New York Times are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. You know what? You should be praising those people instead of trying to find some. By getting me, by trying to go and get me, you're hurting those people. They were devastated. You know, I got a call from Missouri, great state, that I won 3 times by a lot. And I got a call that the pilots and the people on the plane were devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have, and I'm not referring to you, but real scum come out and write reports that are as negative as they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them heroes.
I mean, I'm switching off because right now we've got the boss here.
Hey,
let me get you added here real quick.
Howdy.
Let me get you added to. Let's see. Let's assign. Oh. Yeah. All right. Let's go to. Oh, there we go. Assigned to placeholder. He's guest 1. I don't have a 3-person one set up, I don't think. Maybe I do. Let's see. 3-person.
Some may call him the CEO of BTPR.
Let's see. We'll go to that one right there. Okay, now everybody can see. We're short.
We got a panel of 5 tonight.
Yeah,
what's going on?
Well, we're short 1, so we've got 4 people, and oh wait, here we go. We got Scott coming on here. Let's add everybody. Scott as well.
Hey.
All right.
Hi, Scott.
And then Scott let's add him to guest 3. There we go. Now we got the whole crew, the whole family on board.
Our ratings are going to skyrocket. So this is going
right. It's almost if we had a fraternity, that'd be the way to do it. We could all get together on Zoom, hang out. You know, how's everybody tonight?
Oh, we're doing fantastic.
Good. I apologize for being late. It is my sister's 28th birthday, and so we tried our best. We had to tear down from a kids camp that my brother-in-law here, he's a pastor of a church they were having, and just ended up running a little bit behind, but we made it by the grace of God, and we're just glad to be here. And we flew here literally, so. But this is JD. He's a pastor of a church here in just outside of Nashville, and I don't want to tell him where though, unless you want to, because you might say something that might make people angry.
I say things that make people angry every week already. Yeah, so we're in Rockville, Tennessee, just outside of Murfreesboro, which is just outside of Nashville. So we're probably 45 minutes from downtown. And hey, it's good to be on here with you guys. Ben, we've met once before. It's good to see you again, man. But it looks like you're the only guy without a hat on tonight.
You know
That's
what?
rare.
I always have one on. And I hurried and took a shower right before I got on, and forgot to grab a hat actually. So
Ben, can I make a comment? As I think that it is absolutely shameful you cover up that head of hair. So in fact, I ought to give you a hard time for it. Yeah.
It is.
I was just getting out of the shower in my lustrous hair.
I'm gonna come on here. I'm gonna come on here wearing a wig one day.
Sorry, ladies, I'm taken.
We need to introduce Scott too.
Yeah, and and then Scott is a friend of mine. He also attends Pastor JD's church, and I met Scott. 5 years?
At least.
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute.
And Scott is one of the smartest people I've ever met. Besides you two, Jared and Ben, Scott is on par with, he's very smart. He is very well versed in a couple things that we want to talk about tonight. One of those being feminism. Scott is a female. No, he's not. He's not. And feminism is not his topic.
What?
It's not his topic. But what is his topic? What he can talk about with some authority is just what it means to be a father and a husband. And I want to talk a little bit tonight about where we're at as far as society. We've had quite a bit of conversation here just amongst us about feminism, about how, women, I don't know if this is true because I'm not one, but I know that there are women that listen. And if you're listening tonight, I want to ask you this question. Where are all the men in your life? Like, where have all the men gone? It seems like real men don't exist for anybody under the age of 30 anymore, right? And I want to bring this out because I believe that, wow, look at this. Here we go. Here we go. Jared is always just Johnny on the spot with graphics. And this is truth.
Yeah.
Oops.
This is truth.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So, and I want us to kind of piggyback off of this notion. I've got this theory that I want to bring out, and that is that because of feminism, it has impacted masculinity in society to a point where men no longer are men. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Where we've been challenged so many times and pushed against that we can't even be men without being toxic, and yet women want men.
Speaking of a real man, if you'll look to the left,
that's a great example. This is here you go. Here you go. Yeah.
There's not much more manly than what I see on the left there. So that is something.
Yeah, What's the hand signal he's doing there?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Golly, that's
a conspiracy theory.
It's probably a white supremacist.
What is he saying? What's he trying to say sitting like that?
I don't know about you guys, but I cannot sit like that. There's no that is not possible.
No.
Well, I can't contort my fingers like that. Is this AI generated, Scott? I can't tell if this is AI, but it doesn't look like his fingers should be able to do that.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
He looks nervous.
9.
Is what it looks like. It looks like
20
he's
fingers.
He's also Canadian, so
that's true.
This is true.
I could find a dozen pictures of him sitting like that.
It's probably his normal thing, right?
Yeah.
It's probably his normal way. So anyway, the thought is this, we heard Sunday morning, and we've heard quite a few times over the past week that the only evil prevails when good men do nothing. Right? So we see this whole thing with Iran and Israel and how the narrative is that, we did the right thing by going in and bombing those bunkers and getting rid of those nuclear programs, because the only way for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And so here we are in this season in the aftermath of it, which, the aftermath has been pretty amazing. And I know you guys have probably already talked a little bit about that, but yeah, it's like it's over. It seems to be, for the most part, it's like, all right, we're going to put a pause to this.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually where we were. Like before you all came on, we were talking about the leaks that had happened. We talked about, the attack itself, some of the specifics around it. But this is actually a perfect segue, because we talked before the show that masculinity, which we knew we were going to talk about the destructive power of feminism, but the emasculating young men, these are the young men, the ones that are being emasculated or being feminized, are the ones that are going to have to go fight these wars. And are we actually prepared with a strong enough male presence and a male population to fight wars like we could 20 years ago? Because it's very different. It's kind of eroded over time. So it's a good segue for this.
Very different. Yeah, it's very different. Will our sons be willing to storm the beaches of Normandy?
Yeah.
And that those first couple waves knew what they were walking into.
Yeah.
And they did it in the name of freedom. And I don't think that we have the stomach in today's generations to do that.
Not even close. No.
I think that one of the things, the term toxic masculinity that's been thrown around in our culture, it really, obviously, it has come to mean all masculinity. And that's a problem. The truth is that masculinity, real masculinity, is actually God's idea. It's not a cultural thing.
See how he was pointing to me as he was saying that too, like real masculinity. So
and it's like why God made men and women different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious, and it's okay. It's wonderful. It's to be celebrated. It's to be honored. We need both men and women. We don't need unisex. We need to listen. I've been guilty of that, of a season in my life where I'm going to be very careful what I'm about to say next. But like the whole like era in like the 2000s of the metrosexual period, where guys were just super into fashion and doing all these things. And I'm not like saying if you're a guy and you're super into fashion that you're broken, but that is something that is more of a feminine trait.
That's a beta male.
Has in my experience, and that's more of a feminine trait, and so we need to embrace our God-given roles and actually celebrate them and honor them. And one thing that we need about mothers nurture children. Like men cannot, but a mother cannot raise a man, cannot raise a boy to be a man. That takes another man. And so this whole business of toxic masculinity, I feel very strong about it as a pastor. I feel strong about it as a man, God's creation, God's son. And that we need to like just kind of do away with that term. If you're talking about, well, toxic masculinity is controlling, or that's like manipulating or controlling the women in your life, and I'm like, well, then that's not actually real masculinity either,
right?
We need to embrace Scripture's point of view about about masculinity, because that's God's point of view.
Yeah.
Someone else can jump in here.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you're talking about feminism, if you'd asked me like 15 or 20 years ago, are you a feminist? I probably would have said, yeah, because at that time, the way that I understood feminism was that I'm standing up for equal rights for women, equal rights for men. You know what I mean? And of course I'm for that, but it doesn't seem to mean that as much anymore. Now it seems to mean more of elevating the feminine, and then at the expense of the masculine. And I don't know that that's the right answer either. It seems like that's not the right answer, but there's a push for like saying things are equal, but in reality, making them unequal. We see that across society in a lot of different ways. But saying that two people are equal or two sexes are equal does not mean that those two are equally good at the same things, or equally skilled at the same things, or equally suited to do the same kinds of jobs. But you're still equal. And so like, if that was the definition of feminism that we were being asked, I think probably everybody would say, yes, women and men are equal. We should 100% say we're equal in value. We're equal in the eyes of God. We're created equal. We have the same value, but that doesn't mean that we do the same things, or we have the same roles, or we have the same skills. And so over time, as that word has come to mean something completely different, I would not say that I was a feminist based on the new current definitions of feminism.
Yeah. And I think you're hitting on something there, because it is true. I think that's actually a very masculine position. Adam wasn't a feminist, right? I think Adam, original man, understood her role as, I don't want to do life without her. I need her. I desire her for every part of who I am. And the way that God created her was to fulfill something in him that he needed fulfilled. God did it. God created the need. God created the person, the need, and the person to fill the need. Does that make sense?
And it's society is who is saying that different role is less than Adam's role. But I don't think that that's true. The Bible doesn't say anything about Eve's role being less, or the feminine role being less. It's society that's saying that it's not as valuable to nurture the children, or to take care of the house, or to be married, or to even have kids. Like, society is the one that's saying that that's not value. The Bible doesn't say that, and most men don't feel that way. So it's just a question of who's defining these terms, and they're doing a terrible job at it.
Yeah,
and have for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Go ahead. Somebody else chime in.
Well, it's like the whole thing of men and women's sports now. I mean, I just don't know how they can see it. The people that are for that can see it the way they do. You are basically, you say you're a champion of women, and then, but you let a male win these competitions, and they just completely shut out the women's voice altogether. It's just very, and I just don't know how I can't think like, I just don't think like that. I mean, I can't fathom how that is fair. It's not fair, but I don't know how they understand it that way, because you're really taking women out of sport. You're not helping women at all. You're hurting them. Why, look at Riley Gaines and what she's done. She got into a spat with Simone Biles. I don't know if y'all saw that on X or Twitter, whatever it was. And Simone issued an apology, and then she just completely deleted her whole account. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, when you consider, like, even this week, when you consider, I think it was a Swiss or Swedish, no, it was Swiss, Switzerland, the Swiss national women's soccer team competed against a 14-year-old boys team and lost 7-1.
And lost, yeah.
And so you sit back and go, and I'm not saying that they're bad or that 14-year-old team was good. It's just, we're different. Yep. And that's okay.
Well, do you guys notice the pushback against it? So we've been through this long stretch of feminism, and what you're talking about, also the feminizing of young men. So it's trying to make men more like women in all these ways. But the trad wife movement, have you guys heard about this? So
yeah, I feel like I have.
Yeah. So for the folks that haven't, there's this traditional wife, they call it trad wives. And it's kind of all over the internet, and it's more or less making a comeback. I've got a couple videos that I could play about it, but I feel like that, I had a point that I was going to make with it, and I completely had a brain cloud.
It's on the rise.
Yeah.
Jared, think about that for a second, but I want to respond to what Ben was saying here just a second ago. Ben, you were talking about how can these people justify in their minds, the people who have been so feminist and they're pro-women, how can they now justify not standing up against the trans athletes thing? And I think, first of all, it's because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, okay? And so that there's evil, wicked, demonic forces that are behind all of this. But number two, it's because of intersectionality. And it's because people have allied between oppressed people groups. So the feminists have allied with the LGBTQ community, and they've allied with this, and they've allied with that. And so now when the contradictions come, the contradictions are outrageous. The contradictions are so blatant and obvious, but because we have been allies, now I can't speak out against what is actual common sense, and it's actually against my beliefs because I've made some unholy alliance with this other people group. And it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I agree with you.
Well, let's bring this into context, because you go ahead, Ben. Go ahead, Jared.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think that's why they're starting to reject it. Like J.K. Rowling is somebody who was a feminist, but they had to come up with a name for her. She's a TERF, right? She's a trans exclusionary radical feminist. And so there's, which is ridiculous, but there's now schisms being formed that, hey, feminism was started back then, which was women's right to vote, right? That was the suffrage movement. We could have a whole conversation about that one, but so you had the suffrage movement turned into feminism, first wave feminism. People could say, yeah, it's, there's nothing wrong with that. And then you get into the fourth and fifth wave feminism, where you're trying to make women into men into women, and everybody becomes feminized. But then as you go to the level that you all were talking about, these unholy alliances, and you say, wait a second, now I'm starting to, lose at sports. Now you've got a 6'6" guy coming in here swimming against Riley Gaines. Now we have to break apart again. This isn't working. This is, so it's almost like a natural response, like mankind's natural response to fight this unnatural social, I guess not social Darwinism, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this is just weird amalgamations that we're creating.
But you think, for one, just give me a sec on this, because he hit something on the head. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. And I think if we really sit back and identify this as what it is, it's a spirit. It's an evil spirit. It's this simple, where whenever you or I are challenged to embrace a narrative or something that isn't God's truth, we would call that what? What isn't truth?
Lies.
Lies, yeah.
A lie. And therefore, anytime something causes you to question God's truth or believe something about yourself that isn't true, in this case, the role of females, the role of males in society has been challenged and questioned. And here's the other half. We can blame it on women as a group of men. We can sit back and go, yeah, look what the women in the 50s, the women embraced this. They just wanted to vote. Now they want all the control, and they want to work, and they don't want to be home, and they don't want to have kids. And the country's suffering. The world is suffering because of this ideology. Population where it should be exploding isn't. We're losing that war, right? We're losing in so many areas because women have embraced a lie and men have allowed it. And this is a big one.
Yeah.
We got out of the way because, Scott, you and I want them, 15 years ago, I felt the same way. I looked at it the same way. Yeah. We got out of the way. And because it was a slippery slope of, yeah, this is fine. Yeah. Oh, they're equal. Yeah. No man was saying it up going like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're superior and you're inferior. It's that you're different.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with different.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful my wife is different than me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like staying with the sports thing real quick is like Serena Williams, arguably best female tennis player ever, came out in an interview and said, I think they asked her what she thought about all this stuff, and she said, well, let me be clear. I'm probably the best female tennis player ever. She said, however, if I went up against Andy Murray, who, if you don't know who that is, who is from Great Britain, great tennis player on the men's side, but, not like a Roger Federer or anything. She said he would beat me. I wouldn't win a single game. I wouldn't win a point. Like, I would not win a point. I can promise you that. And as much, that just kind of, I don't know, that just kind of spoke to me. It's like she's saying unequivocally that she would not score at all against him.
So she lost, by the way. She lost to a man. She played Karsten Brosch, I believe is who it is, a German player ranked 203rd in an exhibition match at the 1998 Australian Open. So when she was in her prime, and she lost. Yeah.
So,
a lot of this is perspective. There's a lack of perspective, a lack of experience. Like if you played sports, then you know that there's a difference between men and women.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to have that explained to you. And a lot of the problems that we have, not just the topics that we're talking about today, but just in terms of like the people that are angry at things and that are marching all the time, if they were to actually get out of the silos that they're in and see other perspectives and broaden their perspectives, they probably would see that, oh, okay, I guess these people are not evil if they interacted with each other, but they shut down conversations.
That's it.
We can't disagree agreeably. I don't think all five of us agree on the same things all the time. And I don't even know you guys, but I'm assuming that I was wrong earlier. I was asking Jeremy, who are these guys? Because Rocky Top and Coolbeard can't possibly be their real names. And I was wrong, but I would have picked those names for you guys. See, we can disagree though, and we're not going to like shut down the conversation because we've had perspective. We have perspective. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm okay with you not agreeing with me. I don't have to control the outcome of the argument. And a lot of these things are just about perspective. If we were to get the people out of the cities and out of their little tiny silos, or out of their little colleges, or out of their little friend groups, or out of their little social media groups, and instead introduce them to a different culture for a little while, that's I think that'd be really positive for discourse in America.
Yeah, that's a big thing what you just said. Like but you see all these clips and stuff, and they won't even bother to have a conversation with the other side. Won't even, they'll just completely shut them out. They'll want to yell at them and make all these different types of noises at these rallies and stuff. And it's not even, they don't, I disagree. I don't do it nearly as much anymore. But like, I used to get in pretty good arguments with folks on like Facebook about different things. This was years ago, and when I was like in college and stuff. And now, if I see a post that somebody made and I don't agree or I don't like it, I just scroll on past. I mean, it's not like I don't have to like engage hatefully with them. I can have the thought of, yeah, I don't agree with that, but also I don't really care to have. I mean, there's no benefit of me having an argument with this person. Whereas I have found that most of the people that are on the left that are my friends will absolutely, if I make a post about something, will absolutely barge in and just start talking, saying their narrative and all that. And it's just like, you don't have to talk to me about this. Like, you get so upset, but you could save all that and just scroll on past it.
Well,
why can't we scroll?
You can't. I was listening to you guys' podcast prior to JD and Jeremy joining. So I heard Jared said that basically it's religion. Everyone's going to replace their faith with one that either exists already, or they're going to make themselves their God. But a lot of the things that we're talking about, the religion that we've replaced it with, has an original sin, and it has like a can't do and a should do and a 10 commandments. And unfortunately, people that are stuck in a silo, and I would say that we're all in this boat, so it's really important who we let into the silo with us, because we're all going to be victims of our friend group. But the people that they put into their silos, that tell them that the opposite opinion is evil according to their religion, even though they wouldn't use that terms, it doesn't allow for a discussion, because what we're talking about here is fighting the good fight. Jeremy said at the beginning when we first came on, like, for Sunday, you said the only thing for evil to succeed is for good men to not do anything, right? Well, that's exactly the same core concept on the opposite side of the argument, except for it's been radicalized. And so now, because of the silo that they're in and the repetition and the way that it gets spun up, they have to act on it because it's their religion to act on it. And if they don't act on it, they're no longer good. And so it's there's a certain amount of tragedy to some of the worldviews that are out there, where people are trapped in these worldviews. And I personally have a lot of empathy for them. It makes it a little easier not to argue with them, because I feel like that they're a victim of their choices of news, their choices of friends, their choices of friend group. And I think they've been deceived in many ways, like all of us have, but theirs is a little bit more aggressive than ours.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Scott. And also, we have not a practice in our society of listening to come to understanding. We have a practice in our society of, as soon as he gets through talking, I'm going to say my thing so I can win this, get him to come to my side. And listening to understand doesn't mean I'm going to come to your side. But it does mean that I do want to understand. And sometimes you can go, oh, okay, I can see how you got to where you are. I don't agree with that, but it does give me gives me just understanding. It gives me a common place for us to stand together, to have a civil conversation. And then, actually, if I use my brain, it helps me understand, like, oh, well, maybe if I explain it to them this way, they can see the light that I'm trying to present here. But we don't have that practice. We just, as soon as the other person says what they've had to say, we're ready to go with our next argument instead of just pondering on what they've said and just going,
Yeah, I'd call
let me
that
think on that.
passive dismissance, right? Where you're like, I've already dismissed this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to listen to it, right? So it's like, I'm not going to say anything back, but I'm definitely not hearing you. Or that person is actively dismissing what you're saying by waiting their turn patiently, which is the kind thing to do. And then they've got their formulated rebuttal 9 out of 10 times, has nothing to do with where your argument or your viewpoint stood from, but they're just I just got to get it out there. And those are hard people to argue with. Well, you can't argue with. In fact, it's easier. What does Dr. Briscoe always say? That it's easier to convince somebody.
What is that?
Where they believed a lie. You can't convince somebody they believed a lie, right? Yeah. Like you can convince them. You can argue that they're wrong, but you can't get them to believe that they've believed something that wasn't true. Something to that effect.
Good job,
right?
Tommy.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln said. Okay.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, you know what? It was Abraham Lincoln, I think.
You want to get a good look at a cow?
Yeah, good men are evil when they do nothing. That's what
exactly.
It says.
That's what he said. What I like about what JD just said right now with the focus on empathy, like he didn't say focus on empathy, but that's kind of what we're talking about. Most of the things that people disagree with other people about, they're good things that have been corrupted in some way. Like, of course we want to take care of women. Of course we want people to feel like they have an opportunity to compete in sports. Of course, like all of these things that the left and the right argue about, generally speaking, if you look for it, you'll find that somewhere it is a good thing that is now being corrupted, and that it's okay to say we all identify the same problem and maybe we have different viewpoints on how to fix it, but some of these things have gotten corrupted. But if you can find the common ground, like with this feminism discussion, of course we care about women's rights. Of course women shouldn't be mistreated. Of course men shouldn't be toxic in the way that they treat women. But to corrupt that and to say that masculinity itself is the problem, now you've gone too far, because masculinity isn't a problem, and it hasn't been for however many thousands of years that humans have been here, thousands, millions, whatever. I don't care what you guys believe about that. But the point is, it's been okay, and it's done pretty good. I mean, like we're in a society that by and large was physically built by men. I'm okay with that. And it was only possible because of the way that the women contributed to that same society. So again, we can find like a common core of good in most of these things. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, I actually agree with your opinion. And
thank you.
Yeah, I do 100%. It's a big deal. It's a
big
deal.
Jared, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. Good deal.
That was Ben saying that Scott and JD are talking too much.
No,
our podcast. This is not your podcast.
I'll make sure Jared was okay.
No, I'm fine. I'm listening.
Asleep.
I'm listening. I'm absorbing. Yeah, I was over here. I was taking a nap. No, I was.
He's got narcolepsy, Scott. It's okay.
He's working on his merch. He's working on his cool beard merch. That's what he's doing.
I'm gonna make it.
You were gonna show a video though of the new wave that's happening.
Yes, let me pull that one up. So this is a trad wife. Well, let me play this one first. So this is a girl's experience after going on a date, and she went on a date with an alpha male.
Oh yes.
And
I've seen this.
Okay, you went with an alpha male.
Yeah. Went on a date with a guy who was basically doing all the things that they say guys shouldn't do because it's, sexist or whatever. But listen to this.
Chick goes on her first date with an alpha male, and you can watch the second the feminism leaves her body. Instant factory settings reboot.
Guys, I went on a date this week, and I felt the feminism leaving my body. How dare you? So I go on dates with a lot of men and women. There's always a negotiation about who pays, and that's great. I like to pay for people, all that. I sort of fell into going on a date with the most guy I've ever been on a date with, and he's from West, Santa Monica. He's a bro, right? He's putting his card down. He's paying for everything. And I really it sort of activated something feral in me, I'm not gonna lie. He was gonna go to the bathroom, so I was getting prepared to pay for our drinks, because he's been paying all night. Of course I'm gonna pay for the next round, but as he's going to leave for the bathroom, he turns to me and he hands me his credit card. And he goes, here's my card, get us whatever. Might be time for me to get away from all these, liberal snowflakes on the east side.
So he bought her, you know what he did? I heard there's a follow-up video. He bought her an eye wax job for her. So she's not so Eddie Munster. He was like, yeah, put this on the card. She needs some work up top,
Well, I will tell you,
feminism leaving my body.
And I've found, I just searched feminism fails is really what I was searching on the internet, and there are boatloads of these. There's others we don't have to get into the weeds on them, but it made me think about responsibility. That's the real, not the real, but one of the big components of this is the man's responsibility in the relationship, and it's something that's been abdicated to the nth degree, which is, think about a family. Sarah and I were talking about this, and when things get difficult, whether it's financial things or work things or stress things or whatever it happens to be, that ultimately it is my responsibility. And this is a conversation that we had together is, yeah, I got it. You're going to contribute. You're going to do your thing. But when the rubber meets the road, it is the man's responsibility to do it. And this girl's talking about something, I would say it's superficial. It's paying for a meal. But it's at the most basic level, that provider responsibility that the guy's got. And through feminism, through all these changes to our social norms, we're trying to say that no, the woman should pay, the man should pay, but that's not how the relationship was supposed to be built. And that's something that's coming back, and that women that are exposed to it find attractive, first off, but they say, okay, maybe this isn't such a bad thing. And again, it's a superficial way, but as the weaker vessel, it's what we're supposed to do, right? When the bills can't be paid, sure, she can contribute or however you all deal with that as a couple, but ultimately the buck stops with the guy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, Jared. And when I read through the scripture, I see a clear picture of male headship in marriage. And that's not male headship in marriage that is put there by God is not about privilege. It's about responsibility. Mm-hmm. And if you read through the scriptures, and if you even go to Ephesians chapter 5, I performed a wedding one time where the mother-in-law wanted to view the vows and the ceremony that I had prepared of the groom, the bride's mother. She wanted to make sure that nothing was in there about submitting to the husband. The wife would not submit to her husband. Well, it didn't happen to be in this ceremony, but I'm like, wow, this lady has a big problem here. And maybe it's because of some abuses, or maybe there's some things that are misunderstood. But if you read the part that Paul talks about wives submitting to their husbands, and then he follows it up like, now husbands, you must love your wives like Christ loved the church, like laying down your life for them. Like, seriously, the charge that Paul gives to men as husbands is far heavier and weightier than what he's asking the women, asking of the women for the men. Like, he's like, lay your life down for your wife and your families. And that doesn't mean like lay your life down and be their doormat, but it means to what you're saying, to protect and defend and provide. And that is not a privilege. That is a heavy responsibility, but God built men for that responsibility. And so we can carry it.
And it's so innate in people. This is why, and I don't know where you guys stand on this topic, but as a guy who spent, if you guys don't know, I spent 21 years in the military, 10 years active, and the other part was in the reserves. But when they started bringing women into combat arms, hey, if they can perform, they can, come in. These are decisions being made by people who have never been in forward operating bases or anything like that. And they have found, it's now proven, that it's an innate response from men to treat a slightly injured woman over a gravely injured man, because that protective instinct is built into them, and it's a thing that they're trying to erase. But when you get into combat or you get into the adrenaline's pumping, you resort to some of your baser instincts into your training, and that's what a man is at his basic level is. I have to protect this woman. I have to protect this woman. And they try to push it aside, saying, well, we don't have as many casualties as we used to. We got better body armor, better medical care, da-da-da-da-da. But there are still people that could find themselves in the circumstance of treating and triaging women and men. And there are times where the man is going to choose the woman. Most of the time, he's going to try to save the woman in the heat of battle, in the heat of combat. And I don't know. I think that's something that, it's a telling thing that it's built into our character. It's built into our DNA, into who we are.
Because God created us that way.
Exactly.
Right on.
Yeah,
instincts are really simple.
Sorry, Jerry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that instincts are something that natural selection doesn't explain. And I'm not here to argue about the origins, but if you just look at the way that animals instinctually know things and do things, it's not easily explainable without a creator. And human males instinctually defend children and women instinctually. And so I've never been in combat, Jared, except for on Call of Duty. And I've had some rough times in Halo and stuff, so I kind of know the same. It's kind of the same thing, I think. And and so
very similar. It's the same
but
thing.
very similar, right?
So you know what I'm talking about.
Not only is it instinctual, but women instinctually are drawn to it. Like, is everybody on this call married? Are all of us married? Did we all pay for our wives' date when we took them out for the first time?
Oh
yeah.
And so, like, it's not like. It's not just society.
Are we all still paying for that date that we took them out for that first time? Yes.
Mine has paid me back so much.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, this is not a cultural thing only. There's a certain aspect to it that's cultural, which, some people use to, like, dismiss the instinctual part, but it's not. It's instinctual. It's across culture. It's across time. Men take care of women. Women respond to that. And so the idea that this is an argument against the idea that masculinity is bad. In fact, masculinity is protective and it's good for women.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Well, we've got, some of us have kids that are at that age where they've left the farm and they're out on their own. And, like, if you're a woman that has standards in today's culture, good luck. Good luck. Because there's not a lot of men out there that are, you mentioned Call of Duty, Halo, right? There's so many that are in their basement playing those games that don't want to take that rescibility. You don't want to take that next step.
I don't know what video games have to do with this, Jeremy. I don't know why you're complaining about video games.
But there's so many men that don't want to take on that responsibility. And so these girls that have grown up with the ideology of a prince and the Disney prince and the whole, he's going to be this, we were talking today, he's got to be 6'5", he's got to be a believer in Christ, he's got to want kids. Well, you've just taken and gotten yourself down to about 7% of men. So you're after something that doesn't exist to begin with. That standard is set.
Yeah, my new ideal. Yeah,
not to say that you shouldn't have standards. But here's what's happened, and I think this is why it's important. We've got 5 guys on tonight. I was at a church a couple weeks ago, and I just in the middle of doing some stuff that I was doing there, I just made the discussion about it was Father's Day, so how many dads feel like you're nailing it? Nobody. How many dads feel like you're nailing it as a husband and a father? Nobody. And I think what's happened is the helper that we're supposed to have, that reflection of ourself, that reflection of the unity that we have in God and Christ and all the different things. We look at her and she looks at us, and it's not a reflection of thank you for laying down your life for me anymore. And in turn for men, it's not the reflection when she looks at her husband, it's not the reflection of this guy would lay down his life for me. And that trust, that underlying trust. Now it's so tainted with what the world has thrown at it that we now look at one another and we see something that the enemy wants us to see, and that is competition. And you can sit back and argue, but how many of us here load the dishwasher right? This is the greatest litmus test. Right. You do. It's true.
I do.
It's your wife who loads it wrong.
I load it
Right?
like
But
Jamie
this
does.
is the greatest test that we can have is it seems like even in marriage, so often there's a tug of war and who wins the battle. I'm not going to argue about this one. It's not worth the argument. It's not worth the this. And she's going to be right and I'm going to be wrong. And she's right even when she's wrong. And I'm right even when I'm right. And, okay, that's not teamwork. That's not God's design. That's pride.
I was just going to
say that's not dying for your spouse on the man side for sure. And we do it, you know,
that's
unfortunately,
right.
That's true.
I was going to say that I spent a great deal of time just convincing my wife to load the dishwasher the wrong way. And after about 15 years, I'm getting pretty close. I couldn't do it right. So I was like, here, why don't you just got to sell her on this one? Here, just do it the wrong way, honey.
Why don't you, can you start loading it the wrong way, sweetheart?
Oh, do it for me.
Because none of us are hitting home runs. And I think part of it is these boys are not wanting to become men because they've seen their fathers hollow and not wanting to be the leader because they're afraid to make mistakes. And so they get a 9-to-5 job that goes nowhere and they're miserable. They're not happy. They're not imparting life to their sons to raise them up to be fighters and warriors. Why was John Eldridge's book, Wild at Heart, such a big deal in the Christian world? Even if half of it you don't agree with, it's because finally somebody gets me. I want to get a sword. I want to go out there and I want to slay dragons. And I want to go out there and I want to win her heart. And I want to go out there and yet I'm not allowed to do that because I got to be back in 15 minutes to my cubicle. And it's not living. And so what do? We don't want our kids to grow up the way that we want more for our kids, right? So we don't impart that stuff to our kids and they see us coming home miserable. And then what do we say to them? Like, this is it, buddy.
Yeah.
I think another thing that men have made a mistake on, and we have platformed feminism on because we have abdicated our roles and our authority and our strength and our masculinity. And so when we make mistakes or there's failures or if there's sin and we don't repent of that, or if we just decide we're going to continue to just be a buffoon, if we're going to be like, oh, I'm just going to live the Homer Simpson life, because these are the things that have been portrayed to men in media over the last several decades. Like, I mean, think about men in television. Like you've got Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, Al Bundy,
Ray Romano,
even Ray Romano. Yeah. Everybody loves Ray because he's a wuss, and he just will, And I love that show. I think it's funny, but it's also kind of sad in a sense. And so we've been afraid to fail. We've been afraid to be strong, and we've been afraid to be righteous and live holy. And so we will sit in our failure. We don't want to go and do anything, try to do anything risky or do anything great, because that just means more failure. And so because of that, women are like, where's all the strong men that need to do stuff? And we're over here playing video games. And listen, I love Call of Duty. I don't play it as much as I want to, but it's probably because I've got stuff I've got going on. I've got to do. And I need to provide for my wife and provide for my children. And because men haven't done their role, feminism has been like, okay, we'll do it. We'll do the role. Somebody's got to do it. And that's just something that us as men, as a whole in the culture, we failed. And so we need to repent. We need to stop accepting like immorality and like being addicted to porn, those kinds of things. That porn will steal your confidence as a leader of your home. And it'll steal all kinds of confidence in life that I believe that God's called you to. God's got specific callings for your life. And when you choose to live in sin, you have no confidence to go after the things that God has called you to go after. You've got no confidence to slay the dragons that God wants you to slay.
And you definitely don't have the confidence to go after your wife.
Yeah.
The right way, right?
And so you abdicate your authority. You don't want to risk anything. You don't want to be rejected. And so you're just like, okay, if I play the safe Nerf life and I don't risk anything, then.
So what do we do? What do we do then as a society when you have men that aren't men, women that are trying to be men and can't be, and women that have wanted their way and fought for their way, and now all of a sudden they're realizing that, you know, their way kind of stinks and his way is better, right? God's way is better. And so they're now going, hey, I'm 30, single. I'm going to be crazy cat lady. I can't find anybody. I can't find a man. And I really want a man now, but I've shut all the men out, the real men out of my life because I want to get my own doors, you know? I don't want them paying for things. And real men are going like, no, I want to pay for that. And so it's this, what do you do? How do we do this in culture as believers? Scott, go. Jared, go.
No, go ahead, Scott.
Jared was going to talk.
How do we do? Ben, go, because I don't know.
I was just going to say get rid of participation trophies and start at the lowest possible level. No participation trophies. There are winners and losers in life. Like all these are things that have existed forever that you're either successful or you're not.
If you're not first, second, or third, you sucked. Okay, that's just
and then it becomes all right. Here's what we did wrong. Learn self-correction. You know, all of those things. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Scott, you got anything?
Fear of failure is something that I have struggled with in every area of my life for my entire life. And that includes still to this day. It is the fear of disappointing someone. So it's in your mind, it's just better to avoid it, rather than even, you just don't want to feel that. You just don't want to feel that disappointment that you have given like yourself or somebody else, you know. That is such a strong bondage, I guess you could say.
Well, and
that's a great way to put it. It is a bondage.
Yeah.
And it's something, it's not like, oh, Ben's the only one on here who's ever dealt with the fear of failure.
Yeah.
No, it's something that we all have to face, but it's something that God gives us courage to overcome.
Yeah.
And we need to encourage one another in it. The scripture tells us to encourage one another and give each other courage. And when you in the face of that fear of failure, you take a risk, you take a step. Not only are you doing that for you and your family in faith and obedience to God, but you're also encouraging me as an example and giving me courage to go, oh, I can do that too in my life and whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
We give courage to one another when we do things in the face of fear.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, courage isn't facing death. It's being scared to death and getting on your horse anyway. Martha Washington.
Well, I was gonna.
That's ridiculous.
That's actually a good reference though of when you talked about Martha Washington, but because I've got something that's going to dovetail off of what I was going to say. Is that's also where a strong marriage is helpful, because the superficial things like that girl we were listening to a while ago, it was the fact the guy can slap down a credit card or slap down a debit card and say, just buy us whatever. That's only a piece of it. You know, we've all experienced that when we were young and married, and the failures and the difficulties and all of that kind of stuff, and loving each other through all of that is also the man's source of strength. That's a vital role for the woman in the relationship is, I'm going to love you. I don't love you because of your success. I love you because we love God, because we have a spiritual connection, because we have a combined relationship with God, whether that's your prayer life and devotions and all of those things that build you up outside of the money side of things and the security. But she has to be able to basically have trust and faith in you that, yes, you're going to go through hard times, but you will be that provider. And you'd mentioned Martha Washington. There's a story that they told about them calling George Washington to come to Philadelphia. And he was saying, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm done with all this. I'm done with this mess. I'm done with this mess. And Martha was packing the bag, and they had we'll say a servant, but it was probably a slave in the house she said, Miss Washington, what are you doing? And she said, I'm packing the general's clothes. Well, why? Because he's going to Philadelphia. And she had already packed all of his things, and he came down and said, okay, I'm going to Philadelphia. And he did. She knew him, and she knew that she had to do her part to help him get ready to make that transition easier. It's a very symbolic thing that is true in all of our relationships, that the stronger your home life is, and this is important too, by the way, community with other men that are, God-fearing men, that are strong men, that are going to go through the same trials that we're all going to go through, and have probably already been through some things that we're going through now, or that are going to watch you go through it and know how to handle it, if you handle it poorly or you handle it well. So I don't know, that's something that came to mind.
I agree with what you guys are saying, but I want to just say that one of the breakdowns of this problem is that we learn confidence by failing and seeing the world didn't end. And so when we try to do something and we see, oh, okay, it's okay. This is something we should have been learning when we were kids. And I'm not going to blame our dads or anything like that, but we should have been.
Yeah, that's why we need to get rid of the participation trophy, like Jared said. Exactly.
Yes, that is okay. We could do that. But I also want to call out the fact that the church participates in this, because the church, modern American church, tells us that in Christianity, we don't have to go through tough times. God will save us from our problems. God will heal us from everything. God will take care of all of our things. But there's not a lot of the message of, you know what, maybe you're going through that for a reason. Like the theology of suffering doesn't exist in the modern church. I remember one time I had a vacuum. I got a vacuum as a gift. I didn't need it. I offered it to some friends at the church that I was at the time, and they were lower income friends. It was a nice vacuum. It was in the box, everything. And I was like, hey, you guys need a vacuum? They're like, yes, I need a vacuum. So I gave it to them. And then I checked on them like a couple months later. I was like, hey, how's that vacuum working for you? Expecting them to tell me that it was good and whatever, But instead she's like, no, I never opened it. It's in the closet because I'm believing God is going to get me a house instead of an apartment. And so she effectively nullified the gift that God had given her through me, because she was waiting for a promise that somehow she had learned that God was going to give her all of her desires. And that's not how it works. Just like a real father doesn't give us everything we want, a real father gives us what we need. And sometimes what we need is to say, you know what? Maybe we're never going to have a nice big house. You know what? Maybe I'm going to continue to be sick until I die. You know what? Maybe I'm still going to have this thorn in my side, like Paul said. Like that theology of suffering, to say, look, God is allowing us to go through something. What does he want us to learn from this? And then if we were to think about it like that, that's, I think, the way that a man should look at the world. Women too, but we're talking about men today. Men should look at it like that. And if we do go through it thinking God's in control, God wants what's best for me, and this isn't just the devil, like everything's not the devil, right? And then go through it. If the church did a better job of teaching that to men, I think we would do a better job of teaching each other that same thing too, instead of this like everything is rosy, otherwise you're not on God's side or God's not on your side.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off that, the church, we've done a bad job. And there's times where you sit back and go, okay, let's look at the life of David. Struggle and just drama and struggle, and then he meets Goliath, and it's like, what would have happened, church, Christian, if David confronts Goliath and Goliath beat him? And it was David's head that was cut off. But he went down praising. Like, that's the whole story right there.
Yeah.
He went down praising. Look at all the disciples. They went down praising.
Uh-huh.
But that's not actually written. That's not written in Scripture. Doesn't it? It
Some
doesn't.
of them are.
Some of them are. Yeah, some of them
right?
are. But some of them are not, right? And so there's people in the church that have no idea how they were crucified, how they were burned in oil, and they didn't stop. They didn't stop praising. And I think that's something that the church has. We have, and here we go again, feminized the gospel to a point where it's all about our feelings and not about the outcome. So
Only
I want
positive
to
feelings.
or just the straight obedience,
or straight obedience.
We can't always affect the outcome. Is what Scott's saying. It's like we have responsibility to just be obedient to God.
Yeah, no, but I'm agreeing.
I'm not
saying it totally opposite. We absolutely can't affect the outcome because He is the outcome.
Right. That's the bottom line.
Like, we focus on the outcome for us. We focus on how we feel about it, how everything else. And it's like, no, when did I start to matter in this story?
Yeah.
But we want to control the outcome. That's why we have anxiety. Anxiety is us trying to control the outcome. If we knew and we really convinced ourselves we're not in control of the outcome, there's nothing to be worried about. I was talking to some kids at a high school, Christian high school, and I was like, how many of you guys were nervous to come into this room and listen to me speak? Nobody was. And I was like, why is that? Because they didn't have any part in it. But the moment they think they have to speak, anxiety goes through the roof because they want to control the outcome of what they're going to do, how it's going to be, how it's going to come across, what people are going to say about them. It's all about trying to control things that are outside of our control. It's kind of pride.
There we go.
There's that word pride again.
Yep.
It's the root. It's the root.
Yeah. Pride is I realized that, I mean, there's things in my life that God showed me that it's like, you are absolutely being prideful about this. And it's just like, man, I don't know how I didn't see that sooner. Pride
is one of them how Peyton Manning's coming to the Vols? Is that one of the things you're being prideful about right now? It is, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. He was like, here's Ben. I don't even know him. I feel like defending him. This guy's like about to do a testimony of the goodness of God in his life and how he's being sanctified through conviction of sin. And here comes the quip. Ben, I apologize on behalf of Christians everywhere.
Yeah, I know, Scott. I know. I'm sorry. But go on, Ben. I mean, finish your story.
That really
testimony. It's a testimony, Jeremy.
Yeah, your testimony. Sorry, Scott. I love having him on. Sorry, Scott. Never do this again.
I was really...
We're not getting invited back. JD and I talk too much. Jared was like, I had a whole list of things to talk about.
No, it's all good. I mean, this was the next. I did have about 5 other things I was going to say about Iran, but we got right into this, and I'm cool with it.
Okay, but you know what? We can transition.
No. We don't need to. We're off of that. We're good. I'm golden, man. You know me. I'm easy like Sunday morning, man.
There is one pivot that really is sticking to me this week, and it's about a openly Muslim mayoral candidate for New York City.
We actually opened with that one.
You guys talk about that at all?
Yeah,
they talk.
This really bothers me.
Yeah,
we're going to go the way of London, and everywhere else. They're here, and the agenda is here.
I told Jared, I said, isn't it wild that 24 years ago, 9/11 happened, and now New York City is going to elect a Muslim as the mayor.
I think Eric Adams is going to win again.
Do you really?
I do too.
I do.
Do you really?
Yeah, because look, the problem with this horseshoe theory, like the super progressives and the super conservatives, they alienate everybody in the middle. So I think Eric Adams has a good shot. Although I will miss being able to visit and get the free stuff from the cool grocery stores that are going to be free and run as efficiently as the DMV and the post office. I can't wait to see these grocery stores. They'll probably have very fresh produce, just like the DMV people and the post office people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like downtown Moscow grocery stores, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
That's exactly. I was like, when I heard about the government-run grocery stores, I just thought, have you guys heard of the Soviet Union 5 seconds ago? Do you remember that in human history? Oh, but people haven't, because again, I think that this is all part of the plan. And even in our education in America, we've brushed over those things. And we have a whole generation of kids that have grown up and who are now voters who have no idea about the horrors of communism.
And who have no business voting.
Yeah.
They actually have they're just,
they have no business. That was a harsh one right there.
In their defense, in the defense of those youngsters, they are victims of revisionist history, and they are victims of what we were talking about before, where the living standard current living standards can only be maintained with dual income households, which mean that those schools that are causing this revisionist history, or the authors of this revised version of history, are the ones taking care of the kids. And that's just the way that they have, I believe, intentionally shaped our society to basically say two parents have to work. Like, you just can't make it work without dual income. And when that happens, the schools get to raise the kids, i.e. the state. And just like Vodi Bakum said, don't be surprised when you send your kids off to Rome and they come back as Romans. And
right on.
Yeah, that's where we are.
I think also, in addition to being victims to that, they've been victims to not being trained how to use logic and critical thinking. Because if I look at the platform of, I want to call him Zohan or
Zohan's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's what I saw that movie. When I think of his platform and he's talking about free city buses, okay, let's just start using logic here. Who pays for city buses to run for free?
Yeah.
Well, the citizens do. So that he's trying to say, well, let's make the cost of living of New York City go down. But if you have free stuff, that means the taxes go higher. And so that doesn't make any sense. You're saying, oh, let's raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour. This is what he wants to do. And that's one of the fastest paths to inflation. It doesn't take a Harvard economist to figure that out. Actually, I don't know if we should be using Harvard as the standard anymore.
Not anymore.
Increase on corporate taxes. You think corporations are going to be cool with that? No. They're going to move their businesses outside of the city, or they're going to start laying people off, or of course they're going to pass down the cost of whatever their service is or their product is back to the consumer, because stakeholders aren't in it to lose money.
But let's get even all of that aside. We know and agree socialism is wrong. It doesn't work. They've tried it. It doesn't work. That's actually not his agenda. Sharia is, in the end. Can't say it up front. Can't run on that platform.
Although he has
something you can.
He has.
You can in Dearborn.
He has.
He has said it. Yeah. He was part of the protest. Some of the what do they call it? For the Intifada. He's been at Intifada protests. So I'm just saying. Sorry. Go ahead.
Wow.
All right. Hear that, New York friends? Get the word out.
Yeah.
He's one of them.
Well, and he's
a bad egg.
I was going to say too that he's just like AOC, right? Not that AOC is necessarily on his level. I mean, she's pretty close. She is a socialist, but this social media political culture, and I don't know if you've seen the videos, and I can play one of him. This was posted by Charlie Kirk, and he is changing, and he got called out on it. He was changing his accent based on where he was and who he was talking to. So it's this, I guess, grift is the best way to put it. But let me, come on. Why are you doing that, X? There we go.
New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, you've adopted different speaking accents in different scenarios.
But they go to their local bodega.
Is there one that's real and one that's affected?
What I would say is, as any immigrant knows, having been born in Kampala, Uganda, and then raised in South Africa and moving here when I'm 7 years old, is there are different parts of my life.
Worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Mamdani was talking about a worldwide press tour back when he was a rapper.
Bring the flavor to the fish, bring the flavor to the rice.
In a Disney movie directed by his mother.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Here in New York City.
Okay, I love that he's a rapper on a Disney TV show or movie. I love that. I did not know that about him.
I didn't either.
That's my new favorite fact.
Oh,
wow!
New York.
There you go.
Well, that wasn't a little accent change. Those were some big accent changes.
Yeah.
Big.
Yeah.
He's just doing what Paul said. He's being everybody to everyone.
That's
everything
a good point.
to everyone, right? It's very biblical.
So he can win some. Yeah, he's following the Bible, actually, even though he
probably. Did he ask the bodega people how they're going to like having a grocery store replace their business?
Yeah. Will to bet that wasn't asked.
Right.
Probably not.
But that's what's going to happen. I mean, you can't, like he said, I mean, Scott, you were watching earlier and we were reading part of the article that, or playing the video of him that we're not going to have any profit motive. Well, only a centralized anything can say we don't have a profit motive, because all your profit is generated from taking from people. That's why I believe in local taxes, but federal taxes and all these other things, I'm a very, very conservative person, and I believe taxation is theft, but we could have that conversation for another day. But they're essentially stealing and redistributing to other people. And I have a problem with that, personally.
I think most of us here probably agree with you on that. I think most of America probably agrees with you on that. In fact, I'm shocked that we've gone this far without a revolt on that whole deal.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's like, I don't want to be paying for Planned Parenthood.
No.
I don't want to be I don't want to be paying for trans surgeries.
Well, and he pulled 60, I think it was like 60 million that they're pulling for gender affirming care, as they call it. So
how are those one thing that I wonder about is, how are free groceries and paying for children to have transgender surgeries, how are those the voting topics that people are making decisions based on? In New York City, aren't there things like crime and like other topics that are more important than these? It's weird that these are the things that we're talking about in any of the previous elections. It's weird that these are the topics that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think, Scott, it's because we're talking about it that this is what we're like, this is the resounding gong, right? So you hear about it, so people go, well, this must be a problem. I must form an opinion on this, and it must matter because this is all they're talking about. It must be a problem. I mean,
or an unsolved problem. Like, I think that's the problem with taxes. Like, when you look at like what Musk was trying to do with saving money, they're like, well, you're only saving $2 billion. That's nothing. And you're like, you almost hear that enough to think there's just no way to fix this. So why should I care? And so then you stop caring about it. And so then the taxes just go to whatever crazy things. And by the way, Republicans do this stuff too. Like in that, the big, beautiful bill didn't Senator Cruz like put in that he was going to take one of the space shuttles to like Texas from the Smithsonian or something. And I'm like, you're all doing it. You're all bad guys. Like you're all in it for yourselves anyways. And so it's just too complicated. So we can't solve it. So I don't want to deal with it anymore. Well, that's what I think is happening.
And I think those things like that are issues, because just like JD said, like as soon as y'all came on, it's part of that intersectionality, right? These are divisive things. It's Marxism 101 is to divide people on immutable characteristics, or divide people on whether it's sexuality, skin color, gender, all those things. And you divide the people, go all the way back to, it was Sun Tzu, wasn't it, that said divide and conquer, that
Yeah.
But it's that Marxism does the same thing socially. And if you make that the most important thing, it's very easy to drive a wedge into people when, like we were talking about earlier, that is your religion. There is nothing above that government. So when the government tells you this is what you need to worry about, you're not looking at the Bible, you're listening to Jasmine Crockett, or you're listening to AOC, or you're listening to some other pundit say, this is the most important thing, and it is immoral. You start getting into the morality of it, and people bite off on it. So that, because anger sells, right? It's so much easier to gin people up over angry stuff. We could sit here and say, we're having a whole show about puppies and kittens, and we're going to watch happy, joyous videos, and people will probably scroll right past it. But if you can, basically it becomes a society that is, I call it rage porn is really what it is. And it's kind of what content has become these days.
Well, it's just like on the news, every news segment at the top of the hour that comes on, it's like either breaking news or like Fox News alert. And, it's like, it's really not like an alert. This is what we've been talking about for hours. I don't know really
this is
why.
the same breaking.
Well, even that's such a great point. Even Brett Baer's show, his show 5 days a week is called Special Report.
Yes.
It's very special.
Right?
Yes.
Every 5 days a week, Special Report with Brett Baer.
Yes.
Slow news day or not, it's a special report.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. I will say this, I guess, in a sense, the whole having a Muslim become the mayor of New York, right? Having this surge of Muslim activity in all these Western nations, that'll stop feminism.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a silver lining.
Sheesh.
That'll
Yep.
stop feminism.
Yep.
That is
They're
not the way that we want to stop
No,
feminism. The way that I think the way that you're talking about is not the way that we're talking about. But
there is
I agree.
There was a video, or not a video. There was a picture I saw on X of the Statue of Liberty dressed in a
burqa.
Yeah, like she was just all dressed in black completely. Yeah, and I thought, man, that is a powerful image right there. Shoot, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think people understand.
I don't think they have the numbers to do it. But go ahead.
I mean, I will tell you that this whole, Islam has been pitched as, this religion of peace. And if you've read any of the Quran, I mean, there's parts of it where you can listen to it and say, okay, well, this sounds, nice and all that. There's a progression to it, to the life of that guy. And he was, at the end of the day, he was a warlord. He was a, what's the allowed term on YouTube for the one who likes younger people? I don't know what it is, but you all know what I'm talking about.
Pervert.
Well,
just call him a pervert.
He was a pedophile, right?
You can say that.
Right, he was. And when
he was minor attracted person.
There you go. He's a minor attracted person. Let's keep it
there we go.
PC. But when you see how when taken to its fullest extent, how women live in a society of that, it is, and we used it as a way to determine where we were in the most danger as soldiers. You go into a place and women are dressed like beekeepers, your antennas go up, right? You go into a place and you could see part of a woman's face, you're like, okay, it's probably not as bad here. And if you go to obviously a place that's Western, it's completely different. But and just to see the supposed feminists come out and say that they are supporters of Islam and all of these sorts of things, I think it's an educational. There's what's
totally.
the word? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, there's a lack of education. These people don't really know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're supporting, but they're being told that's what they're supposed to support, and so they do it.
Yeah, a vacuum.
Yeah, there you go.
A vacuum.
And we need to open up our vacuums and use them, right, Scott?
Yes.
Right. Not wait for the house. Not wait for the house.
Don't wait for the house.
Open the vacuum you have now.
Right.
Gosh, well done. Well done.
I don't know if you want to get to another one or if you want to nix it, but.
Well, I mean, no, this pretty much just says it all.
Yeah, we can't talk about this.
This one pretty much just speaks for itself, Jared.
There you go.
I hadn't seen this headline. I missed this.
Yep.
Yeah. So Young Hoon Kim.
Jeremy, I can't believe they made a whole headline about you, man. That's crazy.
Oh, that's funny.
No, it said the world's highest IQ.
Highest IQ. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I keep looking. I think my shirt's on backwards. So I'm, Anyway,
it's not on backwards. It's right. I've been watching you do that this whole time, and I'm like, it's not going to go anywhere. That's as far as.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome, but I didn't want to call attention to it. But since you did,
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Scott.
I wanted to be like this IQ guy right here, and say Jesus Christ is God. Yeah, I think this is true. Obviously.
Well, and the two of them, there was the guy. He was the older gentleman that was working on some wild quantum something. I don't know. I'm not a math guy, obviously. But he was asked by Michael Knowles in an interview recently. He had some guy with, it's like a 194, I think was the guy's IQ. And then this kid, or not 194, it was whatever it is. Kim's IQ has been independently verified at 276. I don't even know what the IQ scale is. I count mine in single digits. So
it's got to be right. I was going to say that's got to be high. I can't count that high, so I'm sure it's up there.
That's pretty good. That's phenomenal. Yeah.
I can take off my shoes and I've got more than enough digits to hit my IQ.
Yeah.
But no, this is Dr. Young Hoon Kim recognizes the individual with the highest recorded IQ in history has publicly affirmed his belief in Jesus Christ, stating that Christ is God, the way, and the truth and the life. And let's see, I'm trying to find the name of the guy, the other one that was interviewed by him, but he said the same thing. He was asked by Michael Knowles, if I don't know if he said Christ, but he was saying that there is a God. Obviously, he was saying he believes in God and that there's no way that this universe, this world could exist. And this is all he does in his spare time. He stays largely off of social media. He's just reading. He's analyzing this, from math to physics to whatever. And he says there's absolutely no way that these things could happen and be in existence without a creator. And there's a boatload of cool stories out there. Scientists, people that were atheists, that when they really delve into their field, that it becomes an undeniable fact that there is a God. But the fact that this guy declares Jesus Christ as God, it's a beautiful thing.
Instantly hated by the left. Instantly, he is an
he's. I just wish Jordan Peterson would come out and say the same thing.
He's not gonna.
Jordan?
No.
He's not gonna, no.
He won't.
And how about,
he likes the mystique of not being pinned down to one answer too much.
Yeah. Well, did you see him on Jubilee?
Is that the one where it's like 50 people versus him or something?
Yes. And he was pinned down by this leftist kid and was trying to get, and he would not. After that one, I thought, this is your ultimate opportunity to say that, yes, I believe in, I'm a Christian, basically, is what he was saying.
The kid he was making a point like, you're a Christian, I'm not. And then Jordan goes, well, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Christian. And then the kid was like, how are you not? This debate is Christian versus atheist. How are you not?
Yeah.
He said, do you believe Jesus Christ is, I can't remember if they said Jesus Christ is Lord or if do you believe that Jesus Christ existed? And he hits him with some abstract, what do you mean by believe? And it's.
That was very good.
Come on, dude.
That's the problem. Yeah. If you have any hesitation whatsoever, it's just like, oh, come on, man.
Well, I think, and Scott's right. It doesn't fit what he's doing. It's like, but there's going to come a day, and we've had on the show, Briscoe says it. We all say it like, hey, deny me before my Father. Deny me before man, and I'm going to deny you before my Father. There's going to come a point where he's got to make a decision of, choose you this day who you serve, and he can believe in Christ. The devil believes and trembles. So it's not, it's not a matter of, do you believe in Jesus? It's a matter of, are you following Christ? And I don't know Jordan Peterson's lifestyle enough. I know he's got all the makings of somebody that should believe in Christ and should follow Christ because he's brilliant. He's very smart. And it takes a lot more energy to concoct or believe in this fantasy that we're all here by, random atom assignments and like that. This is insanity.
Yeah,
that you can come up with no intelligent design and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. It is cool though to see these people fall in. Smartest man in the world.
Smart people are great, but Peterson's problem is that he has come to believe that a sign of his intelligence is his inability to be pinned down in an argument. And so he'll fall back on these ridiculous things like what Jared was saying. What do you mean by believe? What do you mean by you? What do you mean by a? What do you mean by the? And like, you're like, this is stupid. This is
sounds like Bill Clinton in the 90s. What is the?
Yeah.
It's as absurd as the idea, well, God created the universe. Well, who created God? And it's like there's no foundation. You have to be able to say, in order to communicate, that we're speaking a language that we can understand what we're saying to each other. Peterson, obfuscates, and he makes it so that you cannot have the conversation with him, and it makes him look like a coward, frankly. And I'm disappointed because I saw some of the clips of that argument, and I was like, there are easy answers to these questions, but he doesn't want to be pinned down. He wants to argue, I'm so smart that I don't even have to entertain your thing. You're like, well, then why'd you go on the show? If you're so smart, you don't need to even be entertain these questions. Like, you don't want to be challenged is the point. Like, you should want to be challenged. Smart people want to be challenged. And they seek
listen, that show, and I watched a portion of that show as well. It's like it's like the 100 men versus a gorilla for dorks. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's like he's a gorilla. There's 50 of them instead of 100, but he's gonna slay the dragons of, he's gonna win.
Well, I personally just think
he didn't win. I thought he lost. I thought he lost a couple of the arguments because he didn't fight. This goes back to he didn't even try.
That's his winning by not.
Well, that's his version of winning,
right?
but he's not convincing other people. That was a terrible evangelistic effort if that's what he was going for.
I think the format in itself is just terrible. I think it's a silly format. People voting you out. You're in the middle of a debate, and because pure democracy. That's it's a good example of pure democracy. Is all right. We all voted. You need to shut up now and go sit down. You don't get to talk anymore. It's like, all right, that's why it doesn't work.
All it takes is one George Soros to pay them all off. It's over. That's why democracy can never work.
One George Soros.
So,
have you guys ever heard of inference to the best explanation? Have you ever heard that term? Inference to the best, and this is one of the things that a lot of people that are smart or say they're smart, they'll come to the conclusion that they can't prove that God is real or that Jesus is real because they weren't there. So since they didn't see it and they can't objectively have 100% proof, they choose not to believe. But that's not how we live our life. So the way that this smart IQ guy probably came to Jesus, amongst other things, was inference to the best explanation. So like we can believe that Australia is real because of all of the evidence that we've heard about Australia, and then we can believe it. That's a stupid thing to say. Jordan Peterson, what do you mean by real, right? But the point is, like, we don't have to have objective, guaranteed proof that Jesus Christ is real. All we need is the preponderance of the evidence that Jesus is real, and that Jesus' story is real, that Jesus is trustworthy, that Christianity is real, and you go with the best possible explanation. And out of all of the different gods that exist in our made-up world, Jesus is the most likely to be true, the most logically true. And so when you see a smart guy like that come into it, that's someone who's focused on like the logical aspects of it. Does it make sense? Is it compared to the other ones, and so on? And he comes to the inference of the best explanation rather than like, I know for sure, I have evidence, here's a dossier, but so anyways, I don't know if you guys have heard that term, but I think it's a fantastic way of thinking about it.
Is Australia real though, Scott? I mean, let's be honest. Is Australia?
Someone I trust was an eyewitness who went there and said it was real, so I believe that it was real based on that.
Paul Hogan says it's real.
That's right.
What is real? What is real?
Yeah.
What is it? Now we're talking about Israel again.
So, but this is nice. But I mean, even Chat GPT, right? The AI world has agreed, based off of what you just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you ask it, and it'll tell you Jesus is the most likely, or whatever, right? You've seen all those videos out there where it's yeah.
Well, I think
is that AI generated?
I think you can make an AI say whatever you want with your custom instructions. But I think that anybody who looks at the world and the evidence that we have for like fine tuning of the universe and the cosmological argument, like everything that begins has someone who began it. Basically, anything that begins to exist has a cause. If you take those two things by themselves, logically, we know that there's someone that created this, something that created this. So then the question is, what, who is it that did it, right? And then you get into like what's that guy's Pierce
Morgan?
Morgan? Yeah. Piers Morgan. I saw there's 35,000 gods on the earth. Like, how do you know yours is the right one? Well, inference to the best explanation is the right answer. So like, what kind of questions do you ask to determine if it's the right God? That's the questions. And I think there are some really good ones. Like, you guys kind of brought this up a little bit, but the founder of the religion, this is one, I have 3 tests, but this is one of the tests. Did the founder of the religion end up with money, women, and power? And if so, it's a fake religion.
Yeah.
Right? You can get rid of most of the religions with just that one test.
Yep.
Right? And then another one is it has to be logically consistent. So like within its story, is it logically consistent? Did it change over time? Jared, you pointed out that some religions change over time. As the person gets more power, they become more powerful, become more power hungry. So then does it change over time? Is it consistent to itself? Did the Mormons decide, for instance, that Black people were not the people who rebelled with Satan, the spirit people? Did you guys know that? You guys know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They used to believe that, but then the civil rights, era happened, and then they changed their rules. It's not consistent over time, right? And then the third test I have is it true to what we know about humans in that we are inherently selfish? So, for instance, if the religion says it's up to you to win your salvation or to prove out good works, more good works than bad works or something like that, the truth about humans is we'll always fail. So every religion that says it's up to us is automatically fake because it doesn't take into consideration the truth of humanity. So if you test those 3 tests, you come out with Christianity. It's the only one that doesn't fail those tests. So like logical people like that guy and people like me, I'm logical and I'm clearly as smart as him, for the record. But people who think through
and
things
so humble.
They'll come out. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Obviously, I definitely have at least 2 digits in my IQ, but just they don't start with a 200 or whatever that guy is. But anyways, like when you think about it logically, it's true. Like the only one that makes sense is Christianity. So anyways.
Well, and so many you've heard the people talk about trying to include Christ into theirs. So Islam did it, and Buddha, the Buddhists did it.
Them.
They everybody does it. They all say that, oh yeah, Christ is a Buddha, and that, oh yeah, the people of the book, right? It's in the Quran, and it says to basically I've heard people argue it. I need to get deeper into it, but the argument people typically make is if the Quran says that the people of the book, or that the book is to be referenced, if you reference that and that it's the word of God, if you reference that book and it says that there is no other word, which is what the Bible does, then the Quran is automatically discredited. So the Quran discredits itself. And so on and so forth.
That's right.
Yeah. I think I said that right.
Yeah. You did. You made a very good point. Yep.
Yeah, the Quran is trouble for logical coherence. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out. Well, it's kind of like the government structure in New York City. So I guess it's going to fit right in.
What does this have to do with New York City? You just want to, you really want to come back to this New York City thing.
Yeah, it just bothers me. It just bothers me that we're talking about a mayoral candidate that's a Muslim from New York City, that's a Muslim immigrant. This is key.
In a pluralistic society, we're going to have people who have different religions. In fact, I would argue that the vast majority of the people that are in office are not Christian, whatever religion it is. So I don't have a problem with someone having a different religion. Otherwise, I'd never be able to vote for anybody. But I still think Eric Adams is going to win. And then that way, we'll just get a criminal who got off because he's buddies with President Trump, rather than someone who wants grocery stores instead of, it's lesser of 2 evils. I get something to rejoice over.
No, I mean, yeah. That's a good way to look at it. It's great. Boys, it is now, it is 11. It's 11 o'clock your time, right?
11.
Yeah,
11. You guys are East Coast.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
So, yeah. So we will, next week, we're going to take a pause next week, unless 2 of you or 4 of you. Well, no, you guys we can't. We're going to pause next week. Yeah, you're a little busy.
And you will be too.
I'm a little busy.
We usually have church
a little
at this
busy
time,
next
so because we're trying to get into heaven. We love Jesus. we don't do podcasting things with our buddies,
Yeah. So, but we're going to take a pause next week for 4th of July, unless the 2 of you want to do it without me. I'm going to bring the family back. We're going to do some 4th of July celebrations with these guys, and just looking forward to that. So, but we have been on a little late tonight. Sorry for all those tuning in. We've gone a little late. Jared, do you have any comments you want to share or read?
No.
People have chimed in tonight. Are we good?
Well, yeah. So I can read some comments. B. Davis was on. I don't know if she's still on or not. Let's see. Let's go. This is over on YouTube. Tristan was on. Let's see. Let's find that one.
Was that Betty Davis?
No, B. Davis is B. Davis.
Guys, that's a Wow. You guys see this cricket on our screen?
That's a cricket?
That's a wasp.
Holy.
Wow.
That's a wasp.
Oh, it's a wasp. It is. It's a wasp.
It's a wasp.
Okay.
It's a big one too.
It's huge.
It's enormous and it's red.
Yeah.
Yes.
We might have to just let you guys go.
Because you're
It's
being
not
attacked.
attacking us yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
It's like the locust.
B. Davis said.
So next week we're going to.
You want me to get the comments, or you want me to nix them?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so B. Davis, in my view, it seems that feminism is not for equality. Let's see. Boy, this screen is small. Feminism is not for equality, but for equality plus all the injury of the past equals equality, which is not equality at all, but equality with interest paid, in my opinion. She said. She says, of course, I could
there
say
we
that on
go.
female.
Oppressed versus oppressor narrative right there, which is king of our modern day Western culture.
Yep.
Who is the oppressor? Who is the oppressed?
Then John Roberts says the supernatural deception of Satan is the only explanation for how people reconcile these movements intertwining. No rational explanation can reason it. And I think this is when we were talking about, I believe it was transgenderism and all of that when that one popped up.
Sure. Yeah, that's good.
Tristan,
that's true, John.
Tristan, she said that we were talking about men and women, and she said, I hooked him in 2008 and need no other man. And UGA will beat UT again this year.
Bad for you. Look at how she just ruined that for us.
Yeah.
I will agree. I think that will happen. Yes.
Ouch.
Ben, don't.
I mean,
come on.
I'm going to be real. No, I'm not.
No. Don't be real. Don't be real.
This is a real Tennessee fan right here because you got to set the bar low.
What is real? Oh.
Well, see, sometimes you do have to set the bar low because then you can be so pleasantly surprised when you do better. So,
and over the last 20 years, how many times have you been pleasantly surprised? Twice.
Throughout my life as a Tennessee fan, there have been a lot of disappointments. I'll say that there's a lot of good times. But there was a big gap. There's a lot of good times now, but there was a big gap between really good and then there was 20 years of nothing. So it's it's been something I talk to a therapist about on a weekly basis. So yeah, hard.
Well, I think we should wrap up for tonight. But as always, we don't ever close out without telling people Jesus loves you. I know that there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, but I will tell you that he is the only hope for so many people and everybody on this panel. We're just really blessed that we're his sons. That's where we get our validation, our affirmation. Yeah, we make mistakes and all that stuff, but for most of us accepted Christ a long time ago and have been living for him for quite a while. And doesn't mean that we've got it down. Doesn't mean we're perfect. But thank God he says his mercies are new every day. We get a reset every day. And we walk in forgiveness just as we forgive one another. And there's such peace and assurance in life. If you don't know him, friends, I just want to encourage you. In this culture, especially, you're surrounded by Christians. There are Christians everywhere. Get a hold of one and ask them questions. I mean, you can also email the show, but get into a Bible-believing church, one that's going to tell you the truth. Sometimes the truth doesn't feel good, but get into a Bible-believing church. It'll change your life, and it'll give you hope. And it will, in the end, it will make you a happier person. Statistically, it will make you a happier person. So if you're struggling with depression and anxiety, get in the Word of God. Surround yourself with people that build you up. I know Scott brought out that point tonight. And Jared has said multiple times, you're only as good as the 7 people you hang out with the most. And make those 7 people Christ followers. It'll change your life. So as always, it's an honor to be with you guys tonight. We are Braver Than the Rest. You can email us at braverthantheRest@gmail.com and keep your eyes to the skies. Our King is returning. See you in 2 weeks.